Leafs, man, this team is red hot. They did cool down a bit. They took a 2-0 loss Saturday night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think it was just a get the game off. They played a lot of hockey and a lot of nights. I didn't get to watch all the game. Again, I was spending $60 on a dinner. How was the game? I mean, I didn't get to analyze it fully, watched a couple highlights here and there, but it just seemed like a nonchalant game. When you put in your back pocket, say a loss is a loss.
I mean, so like I like being at that game, it's just like Pittsburgh's defense was unbelievable in that one. And it's just a credit to them. Like Toronto had their chances. They missed a lot of great grade A chances in front, especially on that 5-on-3 late that really could have opened up the game, given that there were only 2 minutes left though. But I mean, Pittsburgh was just all over them. They had made some very smart plays. Both that second goal that they scored, Jason Zucker somehow was able to get that puck. It was like a dump in by Kapanen that took a weird bounce off the glass, and Jason Zucker ended up getting it right in front of Jack Campbell, and Campbell's under the impression that he's going to shoot the puck, and instead what's his name, Jeff Carter beats out Jake Muzzin and gets an empty, like a wide open net, and that was to make it 2-0. And it was kind of just the theme of the game where Pittsburgh just out hustled them the entire game.
I mean, that game was one of the 3 games in 4 nights that the Toronto Maple Leafs played, and Leafs fans were treated to a lot of qualitative and quantitative hockey. Lots of games in there, and lots of quality games at that. I want to go all the way back to the Rangers one to start. I believe it was a 2-1 victory, and it was, I think they held them off quite a bit in the latter minutes, and that's what I really want to see. I remember texting Jared immediately after saying, this is the wins that I really want to see from this club. And I think I say this all the time when they edge out a 2-1 win, because again, history has repeated itself many, many times with this team. Those close games heading into the third period, they usually don't last, and it ends up on the wrong side of the sticks for the Maple Leafs. But this one, yeah, go ahead.
The Leafs have won more 1-goal games this year than they won all of last.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that stat.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Like, no, thank you.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so they're 4th in goals against, but they're 26th in goals for. So
they
really
went from
weird.
The most fun. They went from the most fun team to the most boring team. Like, I genuinely, like, obviously I enjoy watching Leaf games, but if I was a neutral hockey fan, I'm not turning on a Toronto Maple Leaf game.
Because I'm taking boring hockey over what I've seen before. 5-4 finishes.
I'll take wins.
Like, wins, man. That's all that matters.
Like, I don't know. I like.
I hear you. I hear you.
You know, like, I like seeing Matthews score 3, Marner puts up 4 points, and we lose like 6-5. You know.
I agree though, but when in the playoffs are we seeing a 5-4 game? I'd rather see that we're learning to win these low-scoring games, because
it's good that they're winning these 1-goal games.
I'm just saying from a pure entertainment standpoint.
I hear
you. I completely agree with that. Like you said, for a neutral hockey fan that doesn't care about the Leafs, they are going to want to see what the Leafs are kind of known to be, this high-flying team, just isn't what we are anymore. But again, the way we're playing right now makes, I'm not going to say anything because we don't know how it's going to translate into the playoffs, but like, it looks like the way we're playing right now is how you need to win in the playoffs. Is all I'm going to say there.
And I think you're just reiterating the heartbeat of Leafs Nation, what they're all saying. Like, these are the type of wins the New York Rangers win, especially those 2-1 wins, the close games where you got to shut down a team tight. And even credit to Sheldon Keefe. I don't want to go all the way back and spend all the time on that game all the way last Saturday, but I think it was a highlight of this past week of recaps for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I give credit to Sheldon Keefe. That timeout that he called, probably, I know it's an underrated one. Timeouts are usually frowned upon in the National Hockey League from a fan's point of view, but for Sheldon Keefe to take that timeout right when they scored that goal, maybe take a bit of the wind out of the New York Rangers sails. They were buzzing around the net, slow them down a little bit. I think that's perfect. I think it goes to, and you see it happen in sports all the time, baseball being one of them. Batters call time all the time because it just has to mess up the momentum and the timing of the opposing pitcher. So, I mean, I think that was a good move by Keefe, and I think everything is slowly starting to come. I said this last week. Obviously, you guys, the fans of the show, didn't get to see it, but last week and the week before, we keep reiterating that good things are starting to happen. The wheels are in motion for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, and a Toronto Maple Leafs team that now has a pretty good and unshaken goalie tandem now. Joseph Woll, I want to give credit to this kid, man. He has stepped it up. He deserves all the success that is coming his way. In his second career NHL start, Joseph Woll recorded his first career shutout against the New York Islanders, blanking a plummeting New York Islanders team. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's been a lifelong Islanders fan, and man, he is not happy with the performance, and nor should he. If your team's getting booed, and I thought this was just a least thing, fans boo them off the ice. No, it happens all around, and the Islanders fans, we know how passionate they are. We've seen it in the playoffs. They got a full boatload of it in that game Sunday night against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it was a quick turnaround. They witnessed a tough loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins, like we mentioned off the top of the segment, a quick response and shutting the door on the New York Islanders. And I hope you guys remember this because I'm a big believer on this kind of stuff. Quick responsiveness is what I wanted to see from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I said this in the preseason when we were like sort of heading into the season. I said this during the season. I want to see this team have quick responsive times. I want to see you bounce back from a bad loss and come back strong. That's the exact thing I want to see, and that's what they did. And I'm really proud of what I've been seeing from this club. I think the defense is there. The goaltending is finally coming along. Not just with Jack Campbell, he's been terrific all year, but now we got a second goalie and even a third. If Mrazek comes back, I really want to see him establish his play. And this is the question I really want to pose to you. So Thanksgiving, it's American Thanksgiving. Evan, I'm sure you'll be celebrating it all week. This is usually the time where GMs check in on their team, see how it's going. And I read this stat today as well. I don't know if you guys took a look at it, but 80% of teams that are in a playoff spot at this time usually go through and make the playoffs in the by April. And I mean, I'm not a firm believer. I know that the minority, at least with the Toronto Maple Leafs, does happen to express itself more than often. But I think the Maple Leafs are set to be a postseason team. And this 80%, what are your thoughts on this Maple Leafs team at this sort of marker in the NHL schedule? We're at a quarter of the way through the year. I can't believe it's gone by already. It's been really coming up fast. What are your thoughts on this Maple Leafs team? And I want you guys to include the tough start and all the way down to what we've seen now, some big time success. I think they sit they're in the top of the table. I know that in the standings. I haven't taken a look at it just yet, but I know they're running the standings a little bit. The Atlantic is looking like it's theirs and the Florida Panthers for the taking. What do you guys make of the season so far for the Leafs? Jared, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing. And as you mentioned, of course, we started the year pretty wonky. It took us a while to settle into the season, but since we kind of got our shit kicked, we started the year. Sorry, we didn't start the year with a 4-game losing streak, but of course we had that 4-game losing streak early in the year. But since then, I don't know exactly what clicked, but something clicked in this team. We look like we're having fun playing hockey. We look like we're playing great offensively and as well are playing a great defensive style now. So overall, we're playing great games. Our offensive guys that we pay the money to score are starting to score. Our depth guys are now as well contributing. And overall, everything kind of seems to be working out. Jack Campbell, easily, I'd say, has been our MVP so far in this year. And yeah, we're doing great. I believe, at least the last time I checked, we're 5th or 6th place in league standings. But at this time of year, we are like 2 points away from being first place in the league. We're a win away. So yeah, everything seems to be working out. Obviously, a big test is going to be how we continue this moving forward in the year. But at this point, a quarter into the season, everything's working out. Everything looks really good. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and everything's falling into place. And this is what I wanted to see from the Maple Leafs again. I hate to keep reiterating and pumping my tires. Usually we save that for Evan on this show. But again, seeing that quick responsiveness time, I think that's what we're seeing now. They responded from that rough start and are slowly starting to trend towards the team that we expected them to be from the get-go. And I want to put the pin in what you were mentioning, Jared, the Jack Campbell situation, how terrific he's been in the defense, because there is something also to look in the defense. And I want to put a pin on that before I turn to Adamo. Adamo, what did you make of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Not just this past week, but overall this season. I know Thanksgiving in the US is usually a check-in point for GMs as to judge their team, what they're thinking. Should they add? Should they take a couple assets off? What do you make of this Maple Leafs team? Because what we've seen so far, it's been terrific.
I'm gonna take, like I normally do, a more pessimistic approach to this. They've been fantastic. They have been fantastic. I'll say it. They haven't been. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but they haven't been as good as they should be. Maybe that's what I'm saying. They're still getting outscored at 5-on-5, which is a concern. It's a major concern considering we say this all the time, but once playoffs come, you're playing 5-on-5 most of the time. So our 10-game winning streak, I think I tweeted it, was like, it was fun. It was a ton of fun. It was not 10-game winning streak, but we went like 11-12 or something. It was mostly because of our hot power play and our good defense, or should I say great goaltending. Shout out to Joseph Woll. He's been good. But they have been good. I will say that. The Stars have underproduced a little bit, which it's starting to get to that point where it's like, okay, okay, Matthews, you've been back now. Like, I get it, you missed the first 3, but you're below point a game. Mitch Marner below point a game. Nylander, God, I love you, and we don't deserve you. And even Tavares has kind of slowed down recently. I love the Jersey Jared. I love William Nylander. He's so good. So yeah, they've been like, if I'm gonna give them a grade, I'll give them an A-.
Yeah, and I was gonna. You want to jump in, Jerry?
Well, I just wanted to say to kind of build on what Adamo was saying. I think as great as we've been, we're definitely capable of more, and
Yes.
that's something that makes me incredibly positive as a Leafs fan, because it's like we're so good right now, and there's definitely more we could give. Like we're definitely far from a perfect team right now, but I just want to say we've been really good, and we definitely have room for improvement, which is a good thing, because there's various areas you could say we could touch ourselves up. If we could figure those things out, we can become as close to a perfect team as the season moves on. So yeah, I definitely agree with his point where we aren't perfect right now. We definitely have room for improvement. But the fact that we're, I believe, a top 5 team in the league right now with all those things that aren't quite all there, I'm pretty positive at this point in the season.
Yeah, and you want to add something, Adamo?
No, I was just Googling. They're 5th in the table.
Yeah, 5th in the table. They've been rolling, obviously, like we've more than said on this show. They again, they faced some adversity at the start. It was a rough start, like we've alliterated on the show. And I wanted to bring up this stat that I read. I don't know if you read this, Adamo, but out of all the NHL teams in a playoff position, the Toronto Maple Leafs are scoring the fewest goals per game at 2.55. Now, this was heading into the weekend, so you're taking out the game where they didn't score at all against the Pittsburgh Penguins and that 3-0 victory over the New York Islanders Sunday evening. So it's weird because when I read the stat, I didn't believe it at all, because if you're looking at the eye test, you're looking and seeing, oh, Matthews, Marner. Remember that streak when all these guys were stepping up and all we were seeing was the offense from the core 4? And then even before that, when we were seeing the only offense from the depth, I'm like, man, these guys are scoring a lot. And then you read the stat, and again, the numbers don't lie. They speak for themselves. It's very factual. And it's hard to argue with a team that's offense hasn't even been producing to the capabilities that we know. And they're getting this amount of success. So I think that just credits your point, Adamo. And I want to build off of that as well, because the offense does need a bit of a shakeup. I wouldn't say line-wise. I like the chemistry that they've built up. But again, I think that we could expect more. We've reached the level that we really wanted. I think it's time for them to take the next step forward. And to take the next step forward, I want to ask you guys this question, because the Toronto Maple Leafs throughout the season, they have have not been able to settle on a defensive core. You're supposed to have legally to put on the ice 6 defensemen. They've been gambling with 7 to keep them 1 in the press box and watching the game from the stands. Guys that I see taking those spots in the stands: Dermott, Hall, Sandina, and Liljegren. Those last 2, it really grinds my gears seeing those guys take a seat, because I really want to see them develop. And I think it's very obvious. We've been really giving them a lot of credit on the show. They're taking really positive steps. I want to put Liljegren's name in the hat as well. He's been terrific of what we've seen, and I did not expect to see whatsoever from this kid. So I really hate that they're trying to touch upon these 2 players. But again, these guys are taking seats on the bench and in the press box, which I really don't like to see, because they're sticking with 7 defensemen. Is this the right move? And are we going to see them settle on a 6th defenseman? Evan, you got the call.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've talked about this a lot. You know my opinion. I think you got to get rid of Justin Hall, but I really have nothing else to say. Like, to be honest, I'd like to go back to the first question, because I've already regurgitated enough information about my opinion on the 7th defenseman. I think you need to find a new home for Justin Hall. There's no other way to say it. I don't care that he shoots left. Congratulations. You have a left-handed shot,
right,
or right-handed shot. I don't care. You don't use the puck. You don't move the puck anyway.
Hey,
he's just not. He's not it. He's not it. And it's a toss up between Dermott and Hall. But in all honesty, like, Justin Hall isn't as good. I don't think he's good. But to go back to your first question, like, look, the Leafs, they didn't look great against Pittsburgh. All the credit, all the respect for Justin Hall of getting your first shutout. But in all honesty, the New York Islanders have 7 guys out on COVID, and then Brock Nelson gets injured in the first period of that game. So you have 0 source of offense. Like, I watched that game entirely. I didn't see a save that Justin Hall made where I was like, holy crap. It didn't really feel like he made a bunch of like saves that were really like impactful. It was kind of just like shots that a goalie in the NHL should be saving. So, I mean, the credit to him, but then again, a lot of those guys aren't your typical NHL players. And then just in regards to their hot start, power play, and all that, we saw the same thing last year where they were one of the hottest teams in November, and especially on the power play, they were unstoppable. Like once you put them 5-on-4, it was Matthews in the slot or in the top of the circle, ripping one past the goalie. So look, I only really care about what happens in January and on, because we saw last year too, their numbers from November to April were like they started getting worse and worse in terms of power play percentage, went from all the way from 40% to 18%. And we even saw last year, like they just couldn't carry the puck into the zone. And you even saw that in the game against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh made it so difficult, even on a 5-on-3, for Toronto to put the puck in the zone, which is just incredible to see because you have 2 extra guys on the ice. And there were so many times where Morgan Riley or Austin Matthews is carrying the puck and Teddy Bluger isn't even letting them get past the hash marks. So look, I think the win against New York was great. I would have been petrified if they had lost, given the lineup that New York had to put out. And you also didn't have Ryan Pulak or Zdeno Chara in that. So you don't have your 2 heavy hitters to intimidate anyone. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. I don't like, it's a great win. It helps you in the standings. 2 points is 2 points, but I think the mindset of this team needs to be like consistency. And we saw last year, they were the hottest team in the NHL and it didn't lead to anything. So I really don't care that they're 5th in the league, whatever. Like I don't think that really matters. I don't think Leaf fans should really care about that, because they're at a point in the franchise where you just want to win a playoff series. Like, and we've seen time and time again, just as long as you make the playoffs, like you have a shot. Like you don't need to be the number 1 seed. You don't need to be the best team in the league. We saw that with Tampa getting swept by Columbus. We saw that with Montreal going all the way to the Cup final.
Now, I mean, the Leafs, as we know, they're not very good poker players. They're never good at playing the cards that they're dealt, because there's so many bumpy rides that we see throughout a season. No matter what teams they're facing, this team could be completely decimated, like the Pittsburgh Penguins were earlier in the year, with all their guys out and still find a way to lose. Or they can play their cards perfectly fine and beat up on these garbage teams. And I think that's what they've been doing so far. Evan, I want to ask you this, though, because you do bring up a bunch of good points. What do the Leafs have to prove to you? And I know you said from January onwards, which is obviously extremely evident because this team, we haven't seen it in the past at all. And playoff success is the only thing that Leafs fans are preaching for. But as of right now, Thanksgiving would be the check-in point that we're sort of focusing the show. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs check-in as well. What do they have to prove to you right now? Or have they proved enough to you that can sort of solidify your thoughts on this team?
Well, nothing that they can prove this second, but like you just need to prove consistency. And honestly, it's just like you got to be able to also capitalize on your chances. I mean, I'll go back to time and time again, just games where they have guys wide open in the slot and they're just missing the net, and it's just, there's no pressure on them and they're missing the net. But it's also just consistency throughout the year. Like if your power play is 30% in November, it can't dip to 15% by March. You can't have it. If you want to go from 30 to 27 or 25, I don't think that's a red flag. But if your power play percentage dips by half, that's a major concern. And it's also, they need to score more goals. I think they've only reached that 5-goal mark that one time against Buffalo. That's why their goals for is so low right now. But I mean, they scored 3 against Nashville. They scored 0 against Pittsburgh. They scored 3 against New York. Like they're winning tight games, which is good come playoff time. But at the same time, if you want to compete with the big dogs in the regular season, like you're going to need to put the puck in the back of the net more. But they haven't had that issue because they're also not giving up as many goals.
It's a double-edged sword, man. Like they'll score a bunch, and then we will all be saying, well, we need tighter games. Like this is what's going to happen in playoffs. It's not going to be potting 5 goals a night. And then they start shutting it down a little bit more, play more sound defense, and they're locking games up. And we're saying, well, we need to see these guys score. What happens if they get locked up? Who's going to bring?
No, I think that's not an issue, though. Like, I don't think, I'm not viewing this as an issue. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to beat up on a team, like, then beat up on a team. Like,
Murder them.
Yeah,
Like
no, I
murder
agree.
them.
I
Like
agree.
if you're playing Buffalo, win 7-0 for all I care. Like don't win. And even against New York, like like half their guys are in the AHL. We're in Bridgeport. They just were eating craft dinner and got the call up. Like murder them. Like if you're winning 3-1, congrats. I want you to win 10-1.
Mhm. Well, when your foot's on the neck, you got to go snap it because you're not going to get that opportunity anymore.
Yeah.
I think this is more like what a Leaf fan or a typical Leaf fan would be thinking. I've been hearing it from a bunch of my buddies back here, and social media has a good way of gauging it as well, where they're like, yeah, they're winning these close games, but we need to see these guys step up, or they're blowing teams out of the water, but let's shut it down a little bit more. So it's, again, you can't never make Leafs fans happy. That's why we're in the business. We're trying to do the impossible, which is never going to end up happening. And I want to ask Jared this question, then I want to go towards Jack Hamill because we love this guy. He's amazing. He's an amazing human, and he's playing amazing on the ice. But Jared, I want to ask you this one thing about the defensive core. I asked Evan this before. He gave me a pretty solid answer. I want to go to you as well. They're still sticking with 7 guys. Is this an issue for them? Is it something that has to be solved? Because I personally, what I believe is that once it starts coming to playoff time, and we're going to see how guys are producing down the stretch when the games get more and more meaningful, you'll see who the true stars are, and you're going to be playing your best players. I think Keith and Dubas do a good job of doing that. Do you think this is a good idea for them to just rotate and keep that 7th defenseman, or are you on Evan's side and like have to ship this guy, maybe get some assets? Because Evan, you made a great point. I've been telling a lot of people this, and I'm really happy you brought it up last week. Obviously, no one got to see it with the episode going down, but you mentioned trading off Justin Hall for draft picks because the Leafs don't have too much in Vancouver. You're just wavering a golden fruit over their head saying, listen, we got the guy you need to play with Quinn Hughes. You guys could take it, offer us what we want. And I'm sure Vancouver would take that. But Jared, what do you make of the 7th defenseman? Is it necessary, or do we need to see it go any further?
It's a very interesting question because I think it's not something that necessarily needs to happen now. It's not an urgent thing. It's still November. They're still kind of figuring things out. But I think Dubas definitely needs to start kind of picking up the phone. As Evan was saying, like if they are going to trade one guy, I would like it to be Justin Hall. However, I'm still in the middle on whether they need to urgently make a trade because my big fear is that we make a trade and then someone gets injured and then, oh shit, we're scrambling to call up a guy from the minor league. So I'm not saying they need to ship out Justin Hall right now. However, Dubas definitely needs to start keeping his options open. He needs to start calling other GMs, seeing kind of how the market's doing, talking to a team like Vancouver or another struggling team that is in need of a defenseman. And it's definitely something where Dubas needs to kind of keep the options open, needs to start talking to other teams. However, I don't think it's something that needs to happen. Like, it's not something that I'm like, come Saturday, we need Justin Hall traded or issues. Like, it's not something I'm panicking about. It's kind of, I don't like the fact that they're scratching guys like Sandin and Liljegren. So that isn't something I like to see because, as you mentioned, development is a very important thing for those players. But ultimately, right now, what we're trying to do is getting the best lineup onto the ice that is going to give us the best chance to win. That's what I believe they're kind of trying to do right now by scratching and rotating things. They're kind of trying to figure out what gives us the best possible chance at success, what gives us the best possible lineup. So I think I'm happy that Dubas at this time of year is kind of feeling things out, playing things around. Again, needs to keep the phone line open, needs to start talking to GMs, but I don't think it's anything that instantly needs to happen. It's kind of just as the weeks move on, let's kind of keep updating it, keep calling, keep checking in, see what the market's looking like. And if the trade is there, if the opportunity is there, then maybe you consider flipping a guy like Hall.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a happy problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, you got that extra guy. And again, we've run into the situation so many times where we need a guy to back a guy up one night because some dude goes out getting injured and we don't have a reliable defenseman. How many times do you remember getting Martin Marincin called up to the table and him trying to run it out with the big boys, and he couldn't do it whatsoever? That's when the Leafs were getting stuck, and you would see the losses pile up more up and up and up as the games went by with this guy in the lineup. So I think it's a better thing for the Leafs to have the 7th defenseman than to have the 6th and worry about a guy who you can't call up. But again, it is no problem at all for Dubas to start getting the phones going, keep the tab open, because you got some assets here and you got some teams where you could punch them right in the gut right now, get some good value for these guys, more value than you would at any time around the year. And I think you want to say something, Evan, just jump in, man.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't want to interrupt like your sentence. I was just saying, like, once you're done, but now that Jared has spoken, like, I think, like, if you want to keep Justin Hall, I agree with that. I don't think you need to put him in the lineup as frequently as they are because it's messing with their chemistry. And I don't really like the idea of a team saying by February and March, okay, now it's the time to bench someone, because by then everyone's figured their shit out. Like they know what works and what doesn't. And I just think February and March is too late to say, okay, you know what, Travis Dermott, you're shut down for the rest of the year, basically. Or you know what, Justin Hall, you're shut down for the rest of the year. I kind of think that needs to happen now. That's how teams build chemistry. It starts in the off season and it prolongs until they're eliminated from playoffs. So I think if you're the Leafs, it's like you want to play Justin Hall here and there, fine. But it needs to be once every 5 or 7 games. It can't be Hall plays one night, Dermott plays another, Hall plays one night. It can't be that. You can't have that. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, and again, beating me to the gun, the chemistry part of it. And Jared, if you want to add right now before I go on a little bit more.
Yeah, I completely agree with Evan's point there. I think, like, I exactly agree with what he's saying. However, the issue with scratching him is he makes $2 million, and you can't have a $2 million guy sitting on the bench every night.
Who says so?
Why not?
Who says that?
Like, because we're a team that's very close to the cap. I don't think it's a good idea to be wasting $2 million that we can better. Okay,
then if that's your thought process, then trade him. Like if that's your thought process, then you got to trade him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's the odd one out. If we're gonna make a trade,
no. But I'm saying, like, if your thought process is like, let's say for example, the same as Kyle Dubas's, your two options are you buy him out or you trade him. Because if that's what you're thinking, then he's got to go. Like you can't do that then, because it's not your defense needs to have
talent, right?
Yeah, your defense needs to have the best chemistry on your team in order to win. Like they need to be in sync in order for, because then your goalie plays better and then the offense is more confident. If that's he's gone. Like he has to be gone.
No, I agree. If you're getting rid of anyone, it is Justin Hall. It has to be. And I'm just saying my one hesitant factor about trading him right now is always that what if factor of what if there's an injury, then it's a bad situation to have, where right now we have 7 guys that we're at least somewhat confident in playing. As soon as someone goes down and we do end up trading Hall, then it's a scramble to find someone from the Marlies. So it's just kind of a fear that's in the back of my head if we start talking about trading people. However, I absolutely agree. You don't want to loaf on that decision. You do want to kind of do it. I don't want to say as soon as possible because it's not something that's urgent, but you do definitely want to start calling, figuring out what the market's like. I agree with your point. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think it's something that you want to look at doing. It's better now than doing it in February. So I agree. I'm just saying it is something in the back of my head. If you scratch him, it's a waste of money. If you trade him, what if someone gets injured? There's always pros and cons to everything, but that's kind of my mindset there.
What I love about it, what you guys are saying, it's just that you're bringing up not the exact same thing, but these are both things that are going to have the exact same effect. Like you're going to have the chemistry still do well if you're keeping a guy in there instead of another one, because if you're keeping a $2 million guy on the waiver, not the waiver wire, the healthy, if you're keeping a $2 million healthy scratch, that's not something you want. You can get assets for that. You don't want to have a $2 million guy sitting there. But at the same time, if a guy goes down, it's like basically calling up a guy and throwing a rusty wrench in a clean piece of glass. You're going to ruin the entire thing. And I think those are just the two problems that the Leafs would have to face no matter which way they go. They're either damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they play their cards right, I think they'll come out on the other end pretty darn successful. I don't know. It's just something, again, minor problem. This really doesn't mean we shouldn't be having a huge entire argument on it. It's just possible scenarios where Kyle Dubas could do this, Kyle Dubas could do that. It doesn't really matter as long as the chemistry by that time of the year is steady and this team is putting up wins in their back pocket. So I think I don't want to spend too much time on that, because I think we're just beating the dead horse and reiterating the same point, because whichever way you cut it, there's just consistency there, it's everywhere. So I think I want to move a little bit more on that. I wanted to really get into Jack Campbell. I love the guy. I think he's going to come up a little bit more later in the show, if I'm being quite honest with you, and I'll make sure I don't forget about him. But on the interest of time, I want to move on from the Leafs to these California teams. And just because the Leafs are on this California trip, I want to get your guys' thoughts just on one thing. What is one thing that the Maple Leafs have to do to maybe please yourself by the end of this California trip? Because last time, if you remember correctly, and this was right before COVID, if you remember, the Maple Leafs went on their California trip. They went 0-2-1. It was not a pleasant one at all. And there was a lot of stinkers in that one, a lot of games that they should have won, and they didn't end up coming on the right side of the track. So what do you guys want to see from this team come? I guess this would be over Sunday night. Evan's at the game Sunday night, watching the Leafs Ducks. What do you want to say after that game, Evan, with this Maple Leafs team and say, man, these guys really did a good job. What did they do to get there?
Well, I think first of all, I think they need to play a tight game. Like I really like how LA's playing, and I really like how their goaltending's playing. I know it's not going to keep up for the rest of the year, just because I saw last year too that Jonathan Quick had those spurts. I do believe in Cal Peterson though, but I just want the Leafs to play a tight game, and I also just want the oh my god, what was I going to say? The offense to really come alive. I think just having a road trip and having the camaraderie of your teammates and not like constantly going back to your houses. Now you're going back to the hotel where everyone's at, just building chemistry there. In terms of that game with San Jose, you better pistol whip them because they are hot trash right now. And that's what I'm saying. Beat up on the bad teams. Like if they don't win 5-1 or 5-0, whatever. With the Ducks, I just want to hope they keep up because the Ducks have a lot of young legs. They have Trevor Zegras. They just sent down Mason McTavish, but they have Troy Terry. Ryan Getzlaf doesn't look a day over 25 the way this dude's been passing the puck. Cam Fowler's really come alive defensively. John Gibson, check the scouting report. That dude's always been incredible. He'll be playing for Team USA in Beijing. No
Really?
questions asked about that. So just with, the Ducks, keep up with the young skaters. San Jose, you better stomp them. And with LA, just have fun, I guess. Don't beat them.
Don't party too hard in LA is the best question. But again, that LA game's gonna be coming up tonight. By the time you guys see this video, it'll already have happened. So
I wanted to $25 to the game.
20, man, Jesus Christ! Like it's ridiculous what they do down there, man. Tickets are extremely cheap. You can go watch a Leafs Kings game down here, man. You were at it. You didn't get to buy the ticket, but the tickets were, I could tell you how much they were going for. It was ridiculous. So
they were a lot.
Tickets down there are obviously cheaper. Tickets anywhere south of Toronto are obviously cheaper. But I want to get your thoughts as well, Jared. What's the one thing that you want to pull by the end of this road trip?
I mean, in the regular season, I don't need to see us dominate, but I need to see us win and win convincingly. I don't care if it's a 7-1 game, but I don't want, we just had the worst second period of our season. Like I want convincing periods. I want us shutting the other teams down. And as much as I'm saying I don't need us running up the score, I want us to win games where we're not scared at the end. Oh shit, are we gonna blow this? I want, even if it is a 4-2 hockey game, I don't want spurts at the end where the teams are crawling back in. I want just convincing games where we look like the better team all the way through, because we are better teams than Anaheim, LA, and San Jose. I'm going to say that we're better teams than them through and through, in my opinion, and we need to play like that. Again, sometimes you aren't going to win a game 7-1, so I don't need to see us absolutely shit kick like that, but I need to see us play like the better team because we are, in fact, the better team. I don't want spurts at the end. I don't want to be scared that, oh shit, we're going to give up 3 goals in the third period and blow a game against the Sharks. Like I just want us to play a convincing hockey game. We don't need to do anything special. Just win your game and play a good, consistent 60-minute hockey game. That's what I want to see.
Damo, what about you?
Sweep them. Shit on them. Yeah. LA. We got shit kicked by them. They kicked our ass. That was the 5-1 game, right?
Yep.
Yeah. They beat us 5-1. Get revenge. Who do we have to play
at
after
home
that?
too? Which is not a good thing.
San Jose. We played one of our worst games of the season. If you guys remember that, it was I think a 5-3 loss. Go beat them. We go play Anaheim on Sunday. Hey Jack, you want to play for USA? Go get a shutout.
Ooh, yo, I didn't even think of that. Gibson versus Campbell.
Go prove it. You've been the best goalie in the NHL this year. I'll say it. He's been the best goalie in the NHL this year. That should be unanimous. Go prove it. Like, we're notoriously not the greatest on the California road trip, and let's change that narrative. Let's go. And these are bad teams too. It's not like the 2010s where like the friggin' Ducks, Sharks, and Kings were like top 5 teams. These are like not playoff teams. I don't care what the Ducks have been great, but the Ducks probably aren't going to make the playoffs if we're
Their ceiling's a wild card.
They're
Their
coming
ceiling's
back
the
down to
wild
earth.
card.
You can tell they're coming back down to
Yeah.
earth. You know, Troy Terry isn't the second coming of Christ as much as we all believe it.
Oh,
But yeah,
legitimate
that's
Jesus.
what I want to see. I want to see them sweep the California trip.
And one thing I want to see before I transition, because you probably propelled me the best segue possible to get into these California teams. But what I want to see from this team is just don't get caught off guard when you're facing these kind of guys. Because again, I know they're on the downtrend, and even the Anaheim Ducks, they've been terrific this year, but they're starting to slowly decline. I know this team's not going to be the same makeup, and the same pieces aren't going to be producing at the same amount in February, March, April. This team is not going to be the same. I don't care. I know these guys are going to fade, but these guys aren't fading right now. They're still decently strong. So don't get caught off guard, because they can beat you in a number of ways. John Gibson can easily pitch a shutout, and there goes your night. So just stay on the course, dominate them, but also don't get caught off guard and have a horrible first period and you're getting outshot 12-0. Because again, we've seen this from this Maple Leafs team historically in this California road trip. Let's not see it happen this time. And what I want to see with these San Jose teams these California